A priest murdered in a church, a country once again in shock. France is the victim of another barbaric terror attack. 2 men took hostages during a morning service in Normandy before being shot dead by police. When will this summer of killings in Europe end? Also this lunchtime, Japan sees its worst mass murder in decades as 19 residents are stabbed to death in a care home for people with disabilities. Here, BT gets to keep its broadband arm. So what does it mean for you and your Wi-Fi? Plus,
I wake up every morning in a house that was built by slaves.
Michelle's night. The First Lady comes out fighting for Clinton, saying of Trump's Republicans, when they go low, we go high.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hussain.
Good afternoon. President Hollande says he'll fight the so-called Islamic State terror group using all means possible after the murder of a priest in a church in Normandy. In the country's latest attack, 2 men with knives stormed the church, taking hostages before killing the elderly priest. They were soon shot dead by police. After meeting the victim's family, the president praised the French security services for reacting so quickly. The attack happened just south of Rouen in Saint-Étienne-de-Rouvray. With the details, here's Duncan Golestani.
It was during Mass that 2 men entered the church in this small suburb in northern France, taking those inside as hostages. Among the 5 people held, 1 was killed. He's thought to be the church's priest, a man in his 80s. His throat was cut. This morning, the Vatican expressed its shock.
This, unfortunately, is just the latest in a string of attacks that have affected us in recent days, really. With great horror. The Pope has been informed. He participates, obviously, in the suffering of those and the strongest condemnation of any kind of hatred.
Another hostage was seriously injured, described by the Interior Ministry as between life and death.
Les 2 assaillants sont sortis et ils ont été neutralisés.
A spokesman said the 2 assailants were shot dead by police after leaving the church. Investigations started and they found a man had been murdered and another seriously injured. In what is now a painfully familiar routine, the French president visited Saint-Étienne-de-Rouvray, thanking the security forces. He blamed Daesh, or so-called Islamic State, for this morning's attack.
Nous sommes face à un groupe Daesh qui nous a déclaré la guerre.
We are faced with a group, Daesh, that has declared war on us, François Hollande said. We've got to fight this war in any way we can while respecting the law. That will be of little comfort for the people of yet another French town scared and grieving. The locations change, as do the nature of the attacks. What remains the same is the shock and fear they inspire. Duncan Golestani, ITV News.
Our correspondent Dan Rivers has joined me now. You have some more details about the victim.
We do. It's an 84-year-old priest called Jacques Hemmel who was killed by one of the attackers with a knife, 84 years old. He was taken hostage along with, we understand, 2 nuns and 2 worshippers. Another nun managed to escape and raise the alarm, and then the church was surrounded by anti-terror police. But as you can see from that photo there, a very elderly priest and clearly a community really still in shock and coming to terms with what's happened.
France in shock once again, though, because sadly this is seemingly becoming a daily occurrence across Europe.
It feels like it, doesn't it? Certainly we've had this attack in France. There have been, 4 attacks now, I think, in France this year alone, 6 last year, 4 in Germany this year. I think it's important to remember, first of all, that we are living in a sort of era of heightened awareness of all this. So pretty much any attack now with any kind of link back to the Middle East is immediately highlighted and put in the spotlight. The tactics have clearly changed of those who profess loyalty to the Islamic State. They're going for low-tech attacks, which are incredibly difficult to prevent now. Gone are the days of apparently of them trying trying to do enormous sort of lorry bombs or that kind of thing. Much more difficult for the police to stop someone simply with a knife going into a church and attacking people in this way.
All right, Dan Rivers, thank you very much. Thank you. Police in Japan have arrested a man following the country's worst mass killing in decades. At least 19 disabled residents were stabbed to death in the middle of the night. 20 others were injured. It's alleged the suspect said he wanted to get rid of the disabled from this world after he handed himself in to police. Debbie Edward has been monitoring events there.
An ambulance rushing from the scene of a frenzied knife attack at a care home for disabled people. Police were called to the facility west of Tokyo in the middle of the night by a terrified employee who told them something horrible was happening. 26-year-old Satoshi Uematsu is thought to have broken in and gone room to room, stabbing residents as they slept. 19 people died, 20 are seriously ill in hospital, and a further 5 were injured. The care home in the city of Sagamihara looks after people with physical and mental difficulties. It has emerged Satoshi Uematsu was a former employee who had written a letter to the government earlier this year. In it, he said, "I can wipe out a total of 470 disabled individuals. Thinking about the tired faces of guardians, the dull eyes of caregivers working at the facility, I am not able to contain myself."
As this incident took place so suddenly, I really cannot find words to console those who became victims, their families and related people. We would like to give our sincere apologies for what happened and express our condolences to those killed.
9 women and 10 men aged between 18 and 70 were killed in the knife attack, Japan's worst mass murder since World War II. The country has some of the strictest knife and gun laws in the world, and such killings are rare. But Japan, like too many others, is now suffering from the consequences of one man with a deadly agenda. Debbie Edward, ITV News.
Here now, and it was billed as the moment many frustrated by the speed of their broadband had been waiting for. In reality, today's announcement on the future of BT Openreach didn't go as far as many expected or hoped. It won't be split off from the BT Group, but it will get a new independent board with a legal obligation to deliver for customers. Our business editor Joel Hills joins me. What does that mean then?
Well, I bet most people are thinking, Neil, what on earth is Openreach? Openreach is, in essence, the internet. It's the network of cables that runs beneath the ground all over Britain, connecting households and businesses to the internet. Even if you're wirelessly, you're connected to it in some way, shape or form, even if you're with Sky or indeed TalkTalk, some of BT's great rivals. And BT has been accused of not doing a good enough job. The regulator, Ofcom, has taken that view. It thinks BT hasn't been spending enough money on the service. As a result, while speed, availability and prices aren't bad, have a look at this. It is the league of shame that tells us that here in Britain, only 2% of British households have access to ultra-fast fibre broadband. Look at that, how that compares with the United States, with Sweden, Japan and South Korea. Goodness gracious. Now, BT has been squeezing, and you can understand why they're trying to do this, all the juice it can out of the existing copper network. Ofcom wants it spending much more, running fibre all the way to front doors of businesses and households. So the plan here, force BT to create an independent Openreach within the BT Group. It falls short, though, of calls to break the business up.
My priority is to ensure that consumers, people and businesses up and down the country get the best possible service from their broadband and as quickly as possible. If I had thought that selling off Openreach was the right decision for customers, I would not have hesitated to do so.
This is so important, isn't it? Because we use the internet now. It's become crucial in our everyday lives.
It's absolutely essential. It's vital. We live in a digital age, and quite frankly, there are too many households in Ofcom's view that aren't getting the essential access they need to access everyday basic services. Let's be clear about what this is, Nina. Now, in this instance, Ofcom insists the simplest solution was not actually the best one, that BT as a company had a pension deficit, this is the big problem, so colossal that actually separating Openreach from the rest of the group would have been so time-consuming, so costly. BT were determined to fight it in the courts that this is the best solution. We should see, within months, we're told, an improvement in terms of the reliability and in big customer service. Keep your eyes peeled.
We shall see, I will indeed. Joel, thank you very much. Still to come this lunchtime, she lost a son to sepsis, how one mum has persuaded the government to help save others from the illness. And the road to Rio, we meet one 18-year-old hoping to strike gold. Before that, the Democratic convention in Philadelphia might be Hillary Clinton's, but last night it was Obama's night. Not the president, but the First Lady. The crowd loved Michelle Obama's speech, where she spoke of waking up every day in a house built by slaves, backing Clinton and condemning Trump's Republicans, saying when they go low, we go high. Sally Bedell reports.
As she took to the stage, the Democratic convention was divided. By the time she'd finished, there was a different mood.
Don't let anyone ever tell you that this country isn't great, that somehow we need to make it great again, because this right now is the greatest country on earth.
In a speech focused on the future with Hillary Clinton as president, the First Lady delighted delegates. Her words centred around her children, personal and hopeful, looking at how far her country had come.
I wake up every morning in a house that was built by slaves. And I watch my daughters, two beautiful, intelligent black young women, playing with their dogs on the White House lawn. And because of Hillary Clinton, my daughters and all our sons and daughters now take for granted that a woman can be president of the United States.
Without even mentioning Donald Trump's name, she was pointed in her criticism.
When someone is cruel or acts like a bully, you don't stoop to their level. No, our motto is, when they go low, we go high.
The hall loved it and the party needed it.
Not Hillary, not Trump!
The rift between Team Hillary and supporters of Bernie Sanders, her rival candidate, had been on very public display. But he too gave Hillary a wholehearted endorsement.
Hillary Clinton will make an outstanding president, and I am proud to stand with her tonight.
The headlines overnight were made by Michelle Obama and Bernie Sanders uniting behind Hillary. If she makes it to the White House, she may well have a lot to thank them for. Sally Bedell, ITV News.
A mother whose young son died from sepsis has convinced the Health Secretary to start an awareness campaign about the illness. William Meade was 12 months old when he died. His mother, Melissa, has campaigned to help others since his death because her son's symptoms weren't spotted by medics. We'll speak to her in a moment. First, here's Sally Lockwood.
William Meade would now be 2.5, but he died at just a year old, after several health professionals failed to spot the signs of sepsis or blood poisoning. William's parents received a public apology from the Health Secretary, and today they had a private meeting with Jeremy Hunt in their ongoing fight for action, not words.
I think there are a lot of lives that depend on this meeting. We have the ability to save potentially 15,000 lives a year with better awareness and quicker onward care.
The Health Secretary had previously acknowledged this.
We must recognise that our understanding of sepsis across the NHS is totally inadequate.
And today, Jeremy Hunt confirmed an awareness campaign will be launched in the autumn.
Very, very, very important clinical sign is the respiratory rate.
This hospital in Bath has already recognised the need for more training and is aiming to teach more than 600 staff in 60 days how to quickly identify and treat the life-threatening condition.
If a patient has got severe sepsis, then if they get to hospital early and we can get antibiotics administered in the first hour, then the survival rate is over 80%.
Sepsis can be triggered by an infection in any part of the body. Symptoms include inflammation, severe breathlessness, extreme muscle pain and discoloured skin. Every year, 150,000 people in the UK are affected. 44,000 of them die. And the Sepsis Trust believes 12,500 could be saved with better diagnosis. Melissa Meade wants the new campaign to saturate the country with sepsis awareness. This, the last photo of William before he died, and a mother who's fought to save other children from a needless death. Sally Lockwood, ITV News.
And I'm pleased to say Melissa Meade joins me now, along with Dr. Ron Daniels, the founder of UK Sepsis Trust. Thank you both for coming in. Oh dear, we've upset you with that report. How did today's meeting go? Because all your work in terms of William, and we know that William's ashes are with you in that teddy wherever you go, that has led to this incredible moment today with Jeremy Hunt.
Of course, we're absolutely delighted as a family that Jeremy Hunt is going to stick to what he agreed to set out to do in January. And with the work of the Sepsis Trust, you know, we can save so many more thousands of lives.
You said to him in this meeting that you're thinking like a dad now, and that had an impact on him.
Yeah, in the last meeting, he very much came across as he's got young children. He wants to be able to tell if his children have sepsis, and he very much acts in the way of any other father or any other parent that would be concerned about their child, and he wants to be able to tell if his child has sepsis.
Ron, we have so much political uncertainty at the moment, and one thing that stayed the same was Jeremy Hunt staying in health. Has that helped when we are dealing with so many unknowns at the moment, that there is certainty that this push for this campaign is now continuing with him?
Absolutely, and we were delighted from this perspective to see the Secretary of State remain in post, because I agree with Melissa. He takes this personally and he takes this very seriously. And this is backed not only by the government but also by the Royal Colleges and by NHS England. So all of the professions agree that this is the right thing to do, and that's why I think the Secretary of State is so convinced that he has now to act.
And what will it change? Because every time we talk about sepsis, awareness is raised a little bit. But what will this campaign specifically change in terms of getting the message out there?
I think this is going to do two things. Firstly, it's going to empower not only parents but also carers and relatives of adults, because this is about adults and children, to ask health professionals, could it be sepsis? So they need to be aware of the term sepsis in order, of course, to be able to ask that, but they also need to be signposted by the awareness campaign to online resources, to leaflets and other materials that describe what the symptoms are and how to act when one of their loved ones develops one of those symptoms.
Melissa, because you've been campaigning for so long on this and meeting other parents and meeting other victims as well, and medical professionals, what sort of response do you get? Do you feel as if finally now the message is getting through that this has to be taken seriously and people don't always need to die from sepsis if it's caught early?
I think our story reflects that of many, many other thousands of parents and adults that are bereaved from sepsis, and also those sepsis survivors. So I don't talk from just William's perspective, but we're doing this for all of those 150,000 people that are affected by sepsis every year.
And brilliant work you are doing, I'm sure everyone would agree. Melissa Meade and Dr. Ron Daniels, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you. And there's a guide on our website on how to spot the signs of sepsis. The usual address, itv.com/news. The way that police in England and Wales handled hate crimes is to be reviewed after a sharp rise in incidents following the EU referendum. The Home Secretary, Amber Rudd, has launched the new Hate Crime Action Plan, which will also look at how the issue is tackled in schools. Raw and runny eggs can be eaten by pregnant women, according to a new report by food safety experts. It says the risk of salmonella is very low compared to when the last official advice was issued in 2001. And the government has confirmed it is actively considering plans to allow parcels to be delivered by drones. Ministers have announced they're teaming up with Amazon to start testing its service, which aims to have items flown to your home within 30 minutes of ordering them. As the Rio Olympics gets ever closer, our Team GB athletes are preparing to set off for Brazil. This year, they're chasing at least 48 medals, more than they've ever won in a Games outside the UK. This week, we're meeting all the athletes on the road to Rio. Today, it's one to watch. 18-year-old gymnast Claudia Frangipangi from Bristol, our sports correspondent Ian Payne, joins me now. What do we need to know about Claudia?
We need to know that she's a precocious talent. You know, we also need to know that she's tiny. She's 4'6", but she's got some amazing tumbles, full of energy, and she's part of perhaps the strongest gymnastics team we've had at an Olympics for quite some time. She's only really come to the national attention in the last 2 years. When she was 16 in Glasgow, she won 4 gold medals in gymnastics at the Commonwealth Games. No one's ever done that before. Now, obviously, she's going to face a lot stiffer opposition when it comes to Rio, but she's such a talent, and it's her floor exercises which are a strong point. She's got massive height on her jumps, spots them pretty well, and she's got a lovely smile and infectious nature that's sure to help with the judges, and she's hoping that she and the team can do Britain proud.
I feel like British gymnastics is getting stronger and stronger, and if we do all our work right, what we do in training, we all work so hard and we go out there and compete, fingers crossed we could get a medal out of that. And then individually I would love to go all around and just get the best score that I can.
She mentioned the team, you mentioned a strong team. What chances have they got?
Well, it's almost impossible to try and predict how many medals a team will get, if any, but I think what we can say is, certainly after London, it's one of the strongest gymnastics teams that we've had for many years. Let's not beat around the bush. We were rubbish at gymnastics for years and years, miles behind all the Eastern Bloc countries, and now we have got people who can compete, and 3 of the London medalists will be taking part in, of course, that includes Louis Smith, who's known for Strictly as well as gymnastics.
Ian Payne, thank you. We'll leave you with a reminder of our main story. A priest has been killed following a hostage siege at a church in France. 2 men armed with knives were shot dead at the scene by police. That's all for now, but Mark Austin and Mary Nightingale will be here with the latest developments on the ITV Evening News at 6:30 from everyone here for now. Bye-bye.